Welcome to the WTF Show podcast from Bangkok, Thailand, presented by Vimol Kogar. Tune in to get your dose of weekly verbal Red Bull.
Hey, welcome to the WTF Show. Today we have Rajesh Dewan. He is Director of Finance, Marriott International. Welcome to the show, Rajesh.
Hi, Vimol. Thank you. Thank you for your invite, and it's wonderful to be on the show. I'm really enjoying the chats which we have earlier, and of course, I would love to share a lot of things. Let's carry it on from here.
Tell me a little bit, Rajesh, about your past.
Okay, let me go on many years, go back a lot of years back. Okay, that's fast. Okay, I am from Jammu. It's a beautiful city in Himalayas in the northern Jammu and Kashmir. Unfortunately, a disturbed state now, but a beautiful paradise, as they call it. I grew up between Jammu and spending quite some time in Srinagar, which is part of the Kashmir, and had my schooling there in Jammu, which was a wonderful time. There was nothing, it was a free times, and the life was not what it seems today. There was no disturbances, there was nothing as such. Had a great time. I still remember good old days of school when the teachers knew the students by their names. Frankly, my school, Vimol, I will share, I studied in Maharaja Hari Singh School. That was actually one of the very high-end schools of Jammu. And the whole school had 238 students. And I was amazed when I went last to Jammu. I visited my school. And guess how many students are there? 8,000 students.
Wow.
So that's how the world has changed. Teacher knew every student by the name. And I would say those were the golden years when you and I were growing up.
So Rajesh, could you just tell our foreign audience in the United States and Europe a little bit about the history of Jammu and Kashmir? People may not know.
Okay, Jammu and Kashmir is a beautiful state in northernmost part of the India. And unfortunately, now a bit of a dispute between India and Pakistan and trouble brewing out there. But in earlier days, there might have been sublime underlying current of trouble, but there was nothing apparent which disturbed our lives in any manner. So Kashmir was known as paradise or Switzerland of India or Asia, and it is a beautiful place with Dal Lake and the snow-covered peaks around there. That's where I spent quite a bit of my childhood. And Jammu, again, a very popular destination, and especially among Hindus because of Vaishno Devi Shrine, and that being the destination to start your journey from, a very popular among the pilgrimage who used to come to the Vaishno Devi. A beautiful town. Small, I would say when I was growing up, a sleeping town, and not a major metropolis or anything as such. Small town with small population, everybody knew everyone. And that's where I grew up, in pristine, clean airs of Himalayas. And that was a wonderful place. And my schooling started out there in Jammu. I studied in convent for some time. It was a co-education, and suddenly they decided it should be all girls' school, and they kicked out the boys. That was a sad part of my life. And the second sad part happened. It went into Maharaja Hari Singh School, agricultural collegiate school, which is again a very high-end school. And it was only boys' school.
Okay, there you go.
So from girls' school, I went to co-ed school, I went to a boys' school. But again, had a great experience, made great friends. I would say all the way around. I have still my friends, though we are all in different locations worldwide, but see, I'm still connected from my lower KG days till date. All my friend group is same. We hardly change. We meet like as if we were studying in the kindergarten and never grew up.
Right.
So that was what the relationships got built up in the smaller towns and how that continued throughout. And interestingly, their fathers were my father's friends, and we were friends among ourselves. And that's how the life became as a childhood. We never realized, and suddenly the childhood was over, and I ventured into my professional life and became a chartered accountant.
So tell me about your journey outside of India. Where did you go?
Okay, my journey. Let me share something in India first, Vimal. My journey started in India, and I passed my chartered accountancy in 1991. And I was very fortunate. I got a great job with Avery, the wing scale people. I got my first job as their controller for Northern India. Okay. That was my first job, and I was heading a whole division without any experience of Northern India for the finance. And suddenly, after 4 months, going back to home Jammu, everybody's practicing. I gave up my job. Okay. And I still regret that, Vimol. That's one of my biggest regrets, which I regret about. And I gave my job and started my own practice and never realized that I will never going to fit into the culture of Babudam and those. Tried my hard for 4 years, but did not succeed. But and I went back to working again. So that's one of the debacle. And I still regret leaving and a very high profile job and just venturing into on this. And especially when the environment is not very conducive when you see because of all the red tapeism and everything which was around there. I would say one should weigh their odds before they venture out, and which I did not. Of course, that was my big mistake. And now to answer your question, that after some time, then I went to Nepal. I started my first job in hotel industry. That was my first hotel industry job. There is a beautiful hotel still is there, Yak and Yeti on the Barmag.
Is it called Yak and Yeti? Is that what you said? Okay,
absolutely.
Yak and Yeti.
Yak and Yeti. Yak is the bull or the cows of Himalayas with long hair on them, and they live in the Arctic regions. And Yeti is the abdominal snowman, which nobody has seen. But that's what they call Yeti in Nepal and in Tibet area, the snowmans. So that is that hotel Yak and Yeti. It was a conversion from a palace into a hotel, and pretty beautiful hotel, I would say. And I stayed there for 2 years and had a great time living there. Again, I'm quite a bit religious person. And there's a beautiful temples. Like Nepal is a city of temples. The Pashupatinath is a beautiful temple. Then you have Hanuman, Doka and all those areas. And Patan with the Krishna temple. I really had a great time, both work-wise, professionally. Learned a lot in my hotel industry career and visited a lot of places in Nepal. And I really that was, I would always term my Nepal 2 years, even it was short stint, as my golden years of working, where I really enjoyed working. And that's where my journey started, being out of India. But again, the things took a bit of turn, and unfortunately, again, there was a bit of royal problems. I think worldwide, everybody knows there was a massacre and everything happened. And I landed up in Mumbai, or Bombay, as we call it. And I started working with IHG. Okay. And for 11 years, I was with IHG, did quite a lot of different roles in IHG and grew up there in my hotel career, doing both hotel roles, BFC roles, as well as regional director of finance roles for Southwest Asia. So while with being IHG, as you asked me the question of my international exposure, I went to US for some time to learn various softwares, stayed there for some time, came back to India. And then I landed up in Singapore, 12 years in Singapore. And I was with IHG for quite some time and then with Marriott. And now Marriott is my home as of now for the last 8 years.
I understand that you are sort of trapped in Thailand from the COVID era. Explain that.
Yes, we've all... since Singapore and you yourself are from Singapore, so it's 2 hours flight, and of course Thailand have always had attraction, and then working with Marriott, and AWC has a great relationship with Marriott. And
okay, so let me just stop everybody. AWC, Asset World Corporation, they are asset owners of the hotels that carry the Marriott brand in Thailand. Go on.
Yeah, so I joined Marriott Bangkok Marquis, which is 1,388 rooms hotel, a big giant, I would say. And Marriott wanted me. How about you looking after the finances of this big hotel and try to do some clustering of operation of different hotel accountings, because we have quite a few hotels with this ownership. And of course, it was interesting, something different for me to do. So I took the opportunity and came. And of course, it was a 2 hours flight back home. I took my first flight back home in came back and was planning to go. Actually, I still have my credit vouchers from the Singapore Airlines. Booked my flights to go back. Flight never took off.
So basically, in March of 2020, it was your turn to go back home after 2 weeks. But you sort of got trapped in Thailand. You're sort of a pandemic refugee. Am I right?
Absolutely. Those 2 weeks never finished. And still, I think those are the longest 2 weeks of my life. They never finished. But yeah, I would say again, how best you make out of it. Of course, with WhatsApp and all these FaceTime and the new technologies which we have, how effectively we can use Zooms and all these things of the world. So yes, away from the family, though physically, but then again, a lot of talking with each other at least we can see each other. I still feel, and tell my wife also is horrified, had this thing happened around about 30 years ago, when the telephones were the black phones, and you had to pick up the analog phones, and you had to book a call, trunk calls, or some homes have the direct dialing. Otherwise, you had to book a call to talk to each other. So yeah, it's a mix of the things. Yes, I'm a trapped refugee, but you try to make home away from home. Yes, you feel homesick sometimes, but then you pick up the phone and start talking to the family on the video chat.
So, Rajesh ji, I want to ask you a few questions about the person who influenced you the most in the last 20 years. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Okay, influencers, a lot of influencers actually, but biggest influence was from my father.
Okay, tell me about your father.
Okay, my father was a businessman and in Jammu and Kashmir, and again, as you know, one of the things which he taught me was integrity. Always work with integrity. Though he was a businessman, and in India, business whatever way it works. That's why he did not let me join the business, and he made sure that I pursue a career in a professional world. And that was one of the biggest influences. I wanted to be a doctor, actually. But getting a doctor seat in India was, or especially in Jammu and Kashmir, was not a cakewalk. And my father said that, see, it's fine, but I'm not going to do anything, any additional, if you want to take a doctor seat.
He wasn't going to pull any strings for you.
He's not going to pull any strings for me. So, and without pulling the strings, it was not workable thing at times. So ultimately, I dropped my idea and I did my chartered accountancy, and he supported me in doing my CA throughout. So that was one of the biggest influence, which left a big impression on me. That's why I don't think I succeeded doing my practice also. Is whatever you do with your hard work and your integrity. Always keep your integrity in mind. So that he had a great influence on me, on my work ethics. Yes, Vimol, another person who had a big influence in my life and my career was my wife. And we had a lot of decision making to be done at various stages. She stood by me and supported me throughout the various transitions I had, whether it was traveling from Jammu to Nepal, or thereafter we shifted in Mumbai or moving to Singapore. She was there by my side always, and I think in every decision making with whichever point of life it was, we had shared a great relationship and a big support overall from her side. And another person professionally who had an influence on me was my boss Chandru, who taught me about a lot of owner relationships. All these things had a big impact on my life and the way I am structured as of now.
Ask about new skill sets that you have two lovely girls, I understand.
Yes.
And the new world that we're living in post pandemic, hopefully the tourists come back next year.
Yeah.
And we need new skill sets. We cannot work on what we already know.
Yes.
The consumer trends are changing. The hotel guests' requirements are changing.
Yes.
Tell me what you would advise people going into the hospitality industry in the next generation. What should they look for? What should they learn?
Okay, so quite an interesting and question, I would say. And for the skill sets, a lot of things will change over the period of time, Vimol. As you see from the olden days when I joined the hotels, front office used to have registers for check-in and check-out, where he was known as a clerk who would mark with the pen, first mark with the pencil, and then he would pen it out, who's checked in, who's checked out, what room number, what key is issued, what everything is done. All those things have changed over a period of time. We have come to PMS systems where everything is managed electronically on the database, where key cards are issued. You don't get the metal key to open your room doors. So the world has evolved even within my working within the hotel industry. And biggest thing which I notice is technology has taken a big leap and changed the world altogether. One thing I would say, anybody who wants to be successful in hotel industry at any level has to be a very tech savvy person, because technology is going, either you change with the technology or technology will change you.
Basically, it'll make you a dinosaur.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. You chose the right word. And so for the newer generations who want to enter hotel industry, tech savvy is a great mantra. And whether it is cash recycling machines, which I introduced in Singapore in my hotel, which was then replicated from Marriott to various hotels bought it, and that company established itself from there, which actually automates all the cashiering processes for the cashiers when hotels has a lot of cash business. Then other things is, a lot of things will be becoming combined or clustering, what we call, for various hotels. So how to handle multiple properties while you're sitting in a single property, that is again going to be becoming things of future. Again, when you're coming to front office and to the F&B services, front office also, a lot of technology has come. Auto check-in kiosks are coming in. So technology and artificial intelligence will keep on taking place or replacing things. So unless you are not very tech savvy, you would find yourself challenged in the hotel industry also.
I want to know about experiences that you've had with unreasonable clients. I want to know actually the learning experience behind it, right? So I don't want to know maybe the specific incidents, but I want to know about an experiential thing that you can teach our audience that, look, this is how we handled a really, really tough client, and this is what it taught us.
Okay, handling different types of client, is there are different type of challenging clients. Without naming but who come with an unreasonable demands, whether it is on the operational side or whether it is on the financial side, as they want their refunds when they do not qualify for the refunds. They made their bookings to get a better rate, and which is a non-refundable rate because it's been discounted so much. And due to whatever reason you couldn't travel, they still want to insist on having a refund. How to handle those things? Because end of the day, one of the most perishable commodity, as we call it in hotels and airlines, is the airline seat and the hotel room. Once the flight takes off, if a seat is empty, it's gone. Once the night rolls over in a hotel, the room night, which was yesterday, will not be a room night again for that day because it's gone empty. And if you had blocked yourself for that room night by having a really discounted rate and without any substantiative reason, you did not travel because of your free will and you wanted to book that room night by paying that lower rate. So there are a lot of discussions which takes place on this thing, and we have to explain to the customer, unless you did not have a valid reason, just that you were planning to travel and you found this as a discounted rate, you booked it, but I have already had a loss of this room night, which I could have sold it out and not retained. So there are a lot of financially, on the financial side, there are a lot of challenging situations like this which do arise, and where we do have customers going to customer care and everywhere on those issues. Not even in Marriott, in every hotel chain this happens. So again, then on the operational sides, you face challenges with the guest. They have their own expectations sometimes, and they're coming to. I'll share you. We had a guest. I will show you my Singapore experience. We had a guest who walked into the hotel. It's a beautiful hotel where I was working. Great location, but it was like the hotel always had 95% occupancy. And his expectation was that he wanted an hotel which should be quiet and with less people. Of course, we were not the right place where he checked in.
Right.
So he kept on complaining, but again, my general manager was not there, so I had to meet the guest. He said, no, I wanted to book this. I said, but you booked the hotel, you booked yourself. We have put everything, all our details on the website. We have mentioned it, we are a busy hotel. We always mentioned we are a corporate hotel. We have not mentioned we are a resort hotel where you have lawns, where you can sit in a quiet corner and do things. So you come across such cases also, which are quite interesting and challenging. Ultimately, we moved him to one of our that hotel chain's another property, which was in a resort location within Singapore in Sentosa. But guests have their own expectations, and while they are booking, sometimes they look at the rate where they're getting a better rate and better deal. So these situations do keep on arising.
So I want to tell our WTF audience how I met Mr. Divan. I was at a banquet at the Marriott Marquis in Bangkok, Thailand. And it was sort of a wedding function. And this gentleman, Mr. Divan, was serving Indian sweets behind the counter. And he just simply didn't look like somebody who looked like somebody from the kitchen. He just looked like a corporate person. He wore his tie perfectly, and frankly, he didn't serve us the sweets really very well. And we all guessed that this person is not a cook. This person is not a chef. This person does not belong behind the counter serving Indian sweets like gulab jamun and ras malai. So that's how we discovered Rajesh. Rajesh, you have a little bit of a soft spot and a little human touch to the way you don't have a pretense. You don't pretend to be who you're not.
True. And that also comes again from my upbringing and my schooling and my parents. Be yourself, and don't try to be what you're not, because ultimately, if you try to be what you are not, people will check it out and they will realize the way you caught me serving the rasmalai, the way I was serving it out. But again, we have to do all these things while when the situations are not pretty good. You have to provide helping hand to the service and the production people. That's what the hotel industry is about. It's about the human touch and taking care of the people and your associates and your guests also side by side. So yeah, that's how I landed up being behind the counter supporting my services team.
Let me just move aside a little bit, Rajesh ji, and explain to the guests quickly our new shows. We are now going into a daily modes. WTF is now available on Mondays. The show is known as WTF Radio Show, hosted by one of the best DJs in Asia, DJ Rico Smith. On Tuesdays, we have the WTF Investing Show. This guy blows Scott Galloway away. His name is Direk Kanijau. So Google Direk, D-I-R-E-K, Kanijau, K-H-A-N-I-J-O-U. And he's our host for the WTF Investing Show. Wednesday, we have the WTF Fake It Till You Make It show with Shruti Katari about books and literature. Again, a wonderful, wonderful host. And I am sure that if you go to the show, you will get addicted. Before we go, I need to ask Rajesh to please, help us to choose the guest for the next show, Rajesh, if you may. Somebody who you know in the community who you think would be enjoyable to listen to and could add to the conversation about youth empowerment and peer-to-peer support. Number two, Rajesh, we ask you to please nominate and vote for Youth of the Year 2021, WTF Youth of the Year, which is the award show we are having at the end of the year. So you are invited as a special guest for the show. Now, before we go, Rajesh, I want to talk to you about the youth out there. A lot of them are a little bit anxious, a little bit depressed, can't get jobs. And like I said before, you have two girls, so you know how it is bringing up girls in this kids in this generation. What advice can you give to the young people out there who are having a really frustrating time during this pandemic?
My advice to the younger generation, especially during the pandemic, is that things will always not be the same. As I shared my experience earlier. Again, I will tell you again. Interesting experience is that between my job changes before I joined IAG, I was without a job for 9 months, Vimol. And
that's a hard time. 9 months with no income.
With no income, I was married and I had my elder daughter.
Right.
To take care of. So, yeah, it is perseverance which pays. Again, don't be depressed. See that there is always light at end of the tunnel. 9 months without a job, with the family, and being a chartered accountant has a high expectations from the society. So had to live up to them, had to put up a bold face. My extended family really helped me during that time, though not financially, but moral support was always there from my extended family, and of course from my family itself. Also, my wife and my daughter was very young, but at that point of time. But again, lean on your family ties also in this time. Don't think that you're alone. That's one of the big things which helps you come out of depression. I could have slipped into depression 9 months without a job. You're a professionally qualified. Your resume is getting rejected due to whatever reason. You don't know. But still, I went on, and I was always encouraged both as an emotional as well as my morale booster from my extended family members, whether it was my in-laws or my sister, my wife, or was it my maternal uncles who were living in Mumbai. So one thing, remember, we are a human being is a social personal person, and remember always that in times which are not pretty good, talk to people. Don't try to be within yourself. Don't try to hide within yourself. There is nothing known as failure. There is always known as learning the lessons of the life. If you are not getting placements now, time will improve. It's not going to be same time always. It's not necessary that you need to have millions of bahts in your bank account or million of US dollars in your bank account to be successful. It is the coefficient and matter of time when you're existing. And that what matter. If you talk to people, if you socialize, I think the world will be different for you. So that's what I would say. And of course, there is scarcity of jobs and there have been a lot of layoffs, unfortunately, due to COVID. Again, I would say, I would give hats off to Asset World Corporation, our owning company, that they really supported us all the employees of the hotels during this time, which was a great support from them, and Marriott International, that none of our Marriot Marquis employees, we didn't lay off anybody. But again, that's what the social supports comes in from, actually, Vimol. And those who get that should praise it. And again, in case somebody's lacking, talk to people, talk to your family. They are always there.
Thank you so much, Rajesh, for joining us in the show. It was my pleasure to have you here today. Before we leave, I would like to ask you if you enjoyed the show. And as a last word, I would like you to tell me about your relationship with Thailand.
Okay, I really had a good time. I think, as I told you before the show, it will be difficult to tell me where to stop. So, yeah. So I really had a good time actually sharing my experience. Sometimes some of the experience I've never shared with anybody in my life, maybe some of the things, but I still talked about them and shared with public, I would say now. And your audience, I hope they liked it, and I hope I have been able to add on to, of course, their rich experiences which they have. And just a thing on Thailand, I love about Thailand. Actually, the people are nice, very nice, and again, it's a beautiful country. And places to see, unexplored places to visit in Thailand. You're welcomed everywhere. And that's something which I really find amazing about Thailand. And of course, the food, the fruits which are out here, sometimes I feel how do they infuse so much of sugar in the fruits? And so is the people with their politeness. How do they have so much of politeness in them? That's very, very lovely and great thing about Thailand.
Thank you so much, Rajesh, for joining us in the show. We hope you join us again soon. Thank you, everybody out there, WTF, all of you audience who've been supporting the show since the 27 weeks we have been on. We are going full force, moving to a daily show. I hope you all enjoyed the show today, and we hope to hear from you next week. Goodbye, Rajesh, and thank you again. TTFN to all.
That's it from the WTF Show. Vimol and the team from WTF Show would like to thank all our sponsors. Tune in next week for another great gig with people making a difference to your future. For advertising spots, go to the WTF Show IG page and get more info, or contact Vimol at 6681 616 5987.